Hello everybody, my name is Donna Hubbard-Young and I am Deputy Head and Teacher of English, and this is a video for Year 11 parents looking at how you can help your child at home with GCSE English Literature. We study for the OCR exam board, GCSE English Literature, and I'm talking to you here as a teacher of English, but also an examiner for the exam board. So my advice comes with two different hats on, really. As we get started, I think it would be useful for us just to reflect on the different texts that we are studying for GCSE English Literature. So students started Year 10 with Jekyll and Hyde, and we'll be returning to that prior to the mocks. We are studying 15 poems, and all of the students have a poetry anthology which looks like this, and within it we have chosen the conflict set of poems, and there are 15 poems that students need to know and to be able to discuss. We're also studying Romeo and Juliet. We've looked at it in Year 9, we came back to it in Year 10, and we will be coming back to it again in Year 11. And students have just finished studying Animal Farm by George Orwell. So they are the texts for GCSE English Literature. There is one exam which has a question on Jekyll and Hyde and Animal Farm, so that's one exam altogether. And then in the second exam there is a question on poetry and a question on Romeo and Juliet. So two GCSE literature exams in total, one that looks at Jekyll and Hyde and Animal Farm, and the other that looks at poetry and Romeo and Juliet. So I think before you can sort of be able to support children at home, it would be useful for you, I think, to know the types of questions they're going to get asked in the exam. So in Jekyll and Hyde, they will be given a short extract from the text, and they will be asked to analyse that and then refer to the novel as a whole. So they may get an extract and a question which says something like, how does Stevenson create a tense atmosphere here and elsewhere in the novel? And in terms of answering the question, it's an essay question, and students need to spend about 30% of their answer analysing the extract which they're given in front of them. And then about 70% of their essay answer needs to cover the rest of the novel. So it's really, really important that they've got a really good understanding of the whole novel, and also that they won't have the novel there in front of them. So they need to be able to really remember and recall some key quotes to help them with their responses. For the poetry, there are two questions. For the first question, students will be given a poem from the anthology printed there in front of them, and then they'll be given a second poem that they've never seen before, and they will be asked to compare the two poems. So we've been doing a lot of work on poetry comparison skills. And then there'll be a second question in which students will be asked a general question, and they'll be asked to choose a poem from memory to answer the question with. So they won't have access to the poems in the exam, and they'll be set a question, something like choose one other poem from your anthology which deals with the effects of conflict on people's lives. And students will then need to sit in the exam hall and think which of the other 14 poems would be a good poem to choose to answer this question with, and then they will need to set about answering using the poem, being able to quote from it and analyse it. So again, really important that students know the poems and can recall quotes in order to be able to strengthen their response. Romeo and Juliet is very much like the Jekyll and Hyde question. Again, they will be given an extract from the play, and then the question will ask them to use that extract but also refer to the whole play. So for example, the question might be, how does Shakespeare present the relationship between Capulet and Juliet in this extract and in the play as a whole? And again, about 30% of the student's essay answer should be on the extract, and about 70% should be on the rest of the play. Again, they won't have the play there in front of them, so it's about them knowing the play well enough and having quotes at hand that they can draw upon and use in their answer. And then for Animal Farm, it's very similar to the poetry style questions. 2 questions. In the first question, they'll be given an extract from the novel, and they'll be given an extract from a text that they've never seen before, and they'll be asked to compare them. So it's those comparison skills again. And then in the second question, they'll be asked a more general question, which will require them to refer to the rest of the novel. So the question might be something like, in one other moment, discuss how the pigs control the animals. And again, students won't have the novel there in front of them, so they'll need to sit there and think, what moments do I know where the pigs control the animals? And then set about discussing them. Clearly, the biggest theme of all of these exams is the fact that they're closed book exams. They will not be able to take the books into the exam halls with them. In most of the questions, they will get an extract to get them started, but then they need to be able to move away from that extract and refer to the rest of the text. And that's going to be the key challenge for students. The only way they're really going to get those very high grades is by being able to quote and being able to analyse those quotes. So that's really important. So in terms of what you can do at home to support your child, it's undoubtedly help them memorise quotes and help them analyse quotes. So far, we have given students a set of Romeo and Juliet quote cards, which they worked with over the summer holidays. And we are in the process of creating sets of cards for the other texts as well. We've just finished the Animal Farm cards, which look like top trump cards, and by half term, students will have also poetry quote cards and Jekyll and Hyde quote cards as well. So please, if you can, ask them for their sets of cards and start and think about ways for them to learn those and analyse them as well. I refer back to something that we say a lot in these evenings, that students, or all of us, remember roughly 10 or 20% of what we read and what we hear, but we remember 80-90% of things that we experience for ourselves, so we actually do something active, and we remember about 90% of things that we teach other people. So there, if you can play some games in terms of memorising the quotes, particularly the top trumps that we've set up, or Pictionary, things like that, and if you can get students to teach you about their quotes and why they're interesting, that is more likely to stick in their minds. So 4 texts, lots of quotes to learn and to be able to analyse, and students would benefit hugely from any support that you can give them on that. Many thanks.